The 2024 Global Report on Trafficking in Persons, published by the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime, presents a global picture of the patterns and flows of trafficking and regional analyses in the aftermath of the global COVID-19 pandemic. This edition covers 156 countries and features a chapter dedicated to Africa. Chapter 1. Global Overview. Trafficking in persons remains a global phenomenon affecting all countries, either as countries of recruitment or exploitation. In 2022, most regions detected more victims compared to 2020. In sub-Saharan Africa, North America, and Western Europe, detection of trafficking victims increased drastically compared to 2019. In line with the increased number of victims detected, the global number of convictions rose 36% between 2020 and 2022. However, not all regions managed to recover the levels of convictions recorded in 2019. The largest increases were in Europe and in sub-Saharan Africa. The overall number of child victims detected has climbed significantly. In 2022, global detections increased 31% compared to the pre-pandemic levels in 2019, with a sharper increase of 38% specifically among girls. In Europe and North America, increasing numbers of boy victims were reported, in parallel to increasing numbers of unaccompanied and separated children recorded at borders. These children are at particular risk of trafficking in persons. 61% of victims detected worldwide were women and girls. Although the majority were identified as trafficked for sexual exploitation, especially girls were detected as trafficked for other purposes, such as for forced marriage, forced begging, and forced criminality. Globally, 42% of the victims detected were trafficked for forced labor, while 36% were trafficked for sexual exploitation. Men and boys are more frequently trafficked for forced labor, while only about 1/3 of these victims are females, both women and girls. Men accounted for about 70% of those investigated, prosecuted, and convicted of trafficking in persons globally. 74% of the traffickers appear to operate in organized crime groups. Globally, at least 162 different nationalities were trafficked to 128 different countries of destination. With destinations both within and beyond the continent, more trafficking originates in Africa than in any other region. Victims detected in Europe come from many different regions. In North America and South Asia, trafficking takes place primarily within the region. In most other regions, domestic trafficking is the most detected form. Chapter 2. Trafficking in and from Africa, a global responsibility. Africa has a unique landscape of traffickers, with large-scale and systematic operations carried out by organized crime groups operating internationally, armed groups and small-scale and less organized operations, including individual and community-based traffickers. Conflict-related displacements exacerbate civilians' risk of being trafficked as people's support networks collapse. Nationals from African countries experiencing conflicts accounted for 7.5% of the total victims detected. Africa has the highest incidence of rural poverty and is one of the areas hardest hit by climate change. As some people increasingly face displacement and loss of agricultural and livestock-based livelihoods, their risk of falling victim to trafficking increases. Over the last 20 years, most African countries have introduced legislation addressing all aspects of trafficking in persons. The number of detections and convictions has increased over time. African criminal justice systems more typically target small-scale trafficking actors, and, less frequently, large and structured criminal organizations. For more information on the global picture of the patterns and flows of trafficking and regional analyses, please download the report at the link below.